You look down, you could see POWs all against the bulkhead. I noticed that the Japanese guard down there was bare to the waist, had his cap on, he had a shovel, and as these fellows would step off down there, he'd swing the shovel at them and point somewhere.
Imagine being a soldier, captured in the chaos of war, expecting to be treated with dignity as a prisoner. Now picture yourself locked in a cramped cage, loaded onto a boat, and cast into shark-infested waters, unable to escape as the sea claims you. This is the horrifying reality of the pig basket atrocity, one of the most chilling episodes of Japan's treatment of Allied prisoners of war during World War II.
Which they then told us to put up round a certain perimeter, and that was the first time we were actually, you could say, we were in a prison camp.
The Japanese military's brutal disregard for human life left an indelible scar on history, with stories of cruelty that still shock us today. The grim reality of how Japan treated Allied POWs, from the infamous pig basket atrocity to the broader horrors of their prison camps, revealing a dark chapter of World War II marked by unimaginable suffering.
And only 6 survived because they escaped, and you have almost 650 British prisoners and nobody survived.
The Pacific theater of World War II was a battleground of relentless conflict. And when Japan swept through Asia and the Pacific after Pearl Harbor in 1941, thousands of Allied soldiers, Americans, British, Australians, and others, fell into their hands. By the war's end, Japan held approximately 140,000 Allied POWs across camps in Japan, the Philippines, China, and beyond. But unlike the treatment of POWs in other theaters, Japan's military culture viewed surrender as dishonorable, breeding contempt for captives. This mindset, rooted in the Bushido Code, led to widespread violations of the Geneva Conventions, which Japan had signed but largely ignored. The result was a system of captivity defined by brutality, starvation, and dehumanization. The pig basket atrocity stands out as one of the most gruesome examples. Reports from survivors and post-war investigations describe a nightmarish practice in which Allied POWs, primarily in the Pacific Islands, were placed in small bamboo or metal cages, so cramped they could barely move. These cages, nicknamed pig baskets, for their resemblance to livestock containers, were used to transport prisoners. In some cases, the cages were loaded onto railway carriages, then transferred to boats. The most horrific accounts claim that some POWs, still trapped in these cages, were thrown overboard into shark-infested waters. Unable to escape, they faced a terrifying death by drowning or shark attack. While exact numbers are uncertain due to Japan's destruction of records, testimonies from survivors and liberators confirm this practice occurred in isolated incidents, particularly in remote areas like the Dutch East Indies or New Guinea. The pig basket atrocity was not an isolated act, but part of a broader pattern of cruelty. Take the Bataan Death March in the Philippines, 1942, where 75,000 American and Filipino prisoners were forced to march 65 miles under brutal conditions after the fall of Bataan. Starved, dehydrated, and beaten, thousands perished. Estimates suggest 600 to 650 Americans and 5,000 to 10,000 Filipinos died during the march. Survivors reached camps like Cabanatuan, where malnutrition, dysentery, and malaria were rampant. POWs were given meager rations, often just a cup of rice daily, leading to starvation that reduced men to skeletons. The death rate in these camps was staggering, with nearly 40% of American POWs in Japanese custody dying, compared to 1% in German camps for Western allies. Another horror was the hell ships, unmarked vessels used to transport POWs to labor camps in Japan or occupied territories. Packed into sweltering, airless holds, prisoners endured conditions akin to cages, with no room to lie down, little food, and no sanitation. Many suffocated or starved during voyages lasting weeks. Worse, Allied submarines, unaware of the human cargo, sometimes sank these ships. The Arisan Maru, sunk in 1944, carried 1,782 POWs. Only 9 survived.
The 300 men that died on the NR Maru were placed into cargo nets and dumped into a mass grave on Formosa.
These ships, while not literally cages in the ocean, echoed the confinement and despair of the pig basket atrocity, trapping men in spaces where survival was a gamble. Forced labor was another grim reality. POWs were sent to work in mines, factories, and construction sites under deadly conditions. The Burma-Thailand Railway, known as the Death Railway, claimed the lives of over 12,000 Allied POWs and 90,000 Asian laborers. Men worked 16-hour days, malnourished and beaten, building rail lines through jungles plagued by cholera and monsoon floods. In camps like Sandakan in Borneo, only 6 of 2,434 Australian and British POWs survived a series of death marches in 1945, where stragglers were executed or left to die.
And we all had to stand with our arms out in the sun without hats till people were dropping.
These camps, surrounded by barbed wire and guard towers, were not in the ocean, but shared the same dehumanizing brutality as the pig basket incidents. Why did Japan treat POWs this way? The answer lies partly in their military culture. Surrender was seen as a betrayal of honor, and POWs were viewed as less than human. Japanese soldiers were indoctrinated to fight to the death, and those who captured enemies often saw them as tools for labor or propaganda, not as soldiers deserving respect.
No matter how big you was, or how little I was, and line them all up, facing one another, and fight. And they'd be running along with a big stick, made a sword stick.
This attitude was compounded by logistical failures. Japan's overstretched empire struggled to feed its own troops, let alone prisoners. Yet this doesn't excuse the deliberate cruelty, from beheadings to medical neglect. Some commanders faced war crimes trials after 1945, with figures like General Masaharu Homma executed for the Bataan atrocities, but many perpetrators escaped justice due to lost records or political deals. It's crucial to distinguish Japan's POW camps from the Japanese-American incarceration camps in the United States. While both involved detention, their contexts were starkly different. The U.S. interned 120,000 Japanese Americans under Executive Order 9066, driven by racial prejudice and unfounded fears of espionage. These camps, like Manzanar, were harsh, with families losing homes and freedom, but they were not designed for forced labor or extermination. Mortality rates were low, and conditions, while unjust, were far better than the starvation and violence in Japanese POW camps.
It was like being abandoned, yeah.
Conflating the two risks, oversimplifying distinct injustices, one rooted in war crimes, the other in discriminatory policy. The pig basket atrocity and other horrors left lasting scars. Survivors liberated in 1945 carried physical and psychological wounds. Malnutrition, PTSD, and diseases like beriberi plagued them for years. Post-war trials held in Tokyo convicted over 4,000 Japanese personnel, with 920 executed. But justice felt incomplete for many. The destruction of records obscured the full scope of atrocities like the pig basket, leaving historians to piece together accounts from survivors like Australian POW Bill Haskell, who described cages so tight you couldn't stand or lie down. These stories, though fragmented, ensure the victim's suffering isn't forgotten. Today, the legacy of Japan's POW treatment serves as a grim reminder of war's brutality. Memorials like the Sandakan POW campsite and the Bataan Death March Trail honor the fallen, while museums educate future generations. The pig basket atrocity, though less documented, underscores the depths of cruelty humans can inflict, when ideology overrides compassion. Allied POWs endured unimaginable horrors, cages in the ocean, death marches, and starvation camps. Yet their resilience shines through in the stories of those who survived. As we reflect on this dark chapter, we're reminded that war tests not just strategy, but humanity. The pig basket atrocity and the broader suffering of Allied POWs in Japanese hands demand we remember, not to fuel hatred, but to honor the strength of those who endured and to ensure such horrors are never repeated. Their stories, etched in history, call us to uphold the dignity of all, even in the darkest times.